Okay, let's try it with long hair. I quite like it. I like the color scheme of the screen, what you can see on the screen, which is always such a I love that. I love that part about making these videos. So today I wanted to talk about connections and why they don't work, and then what kinds work, maybe, is in the nutshell what I want to speak about today. So I discovered, or rather found, because as in throughout my whole life, no connection of mine have ever lasted apart from with my life partner. And that's still, well, that's like 21 years in the making. And yeah, you just don't know. I do hope it will last forever, but in this lifetime, forever. Um, but I don't know, just don't know. But this certainly is the longest one I've ever had. And the difference between that one and any other, and I do bundle them all together, like lover, romantic kind of connections and relationships, and friends and friends, basically. So sexual and asexual, because I do think that the lasting agent, lasting bonding agent in a romantic partnership, sexual relationship, is friendship. If you don't establish that, then yeah, after the kind of initial passions and the kind of in loveness or whatever you call it is gone, you kind of want to have that. Well, certainly that's my experience, and that certainly is the bonding agent between me and my life partner. And but we had our fair share of, in fact, we started off, our first 3 years were the most difficult probably, and yet they were the most amazing. So it was like we used to say, pain and joy and pain, hell and heaven, all in one day. So yeah, we'd go through like really like difficult, like painful, challenging times, and then on the back of that would fall into a heavenly phase, and then that was like a good 3 years. It was quite like that, a good 3 or 4 maybe even. And yeah, then we settled and settled it out into our own dynamic and ways, and just ourselves, and therefore within the relationship. But my point is, why did I stick around? I'm the one usually who feels the need to pull out, and does pull out 9 out of 10 times, maybe 8 out of 10 times, maybe 9 out of 10. It doesn't matter, but I mean, mostly I do. So why have I chosen not to this time? It was this something unexplainably just love. Like I don't know, I mean, I do know, meaning I'm imagining various, as I'm thinking and saying this now in front of the camera, in my head I'm like, or in my mind, I'm just having a sequence of scenes of us being in those difficult times, and then how we come out at the other end, and what was the feeling, the transition from hell to heaven. And it's because just the heaven was always there. It's just that, I suppose, if you're in heaven and you just popped out around the corner for a bit of hell, not that you wanted it, just kind of happens or something, I don't know. You kind of know that you have heaven, I think is what it is. Actually, I quite like that metaphor. That's it, you have heaven. But why you have heaven with someone, that I suppose is chemistry, maybe soulmate, soul connection. I certainly can put it down to astrology as well. But yeah, I had many, too many lovers or partners or boyfriends or whatever before I met my life partner, and no, never had that with anyone before. But with friends or connections, like in that sense, acquaintances or just friends, right? I never had what happens is that there isn't that heaven. That's the thing. There isn't that heaven. And why? So as soon as it starts, the problems like I would have had with my partner, we would have had with each other rather, in a relationship, there was no heaven to fall back on. Well, we had it, sorry, but in my friendships or connections, there isn't really a heaven to fall back on. And so when you start feeling just off or upset or hurt or by someone, obviously that's for you, work for you to do, not always. But would you want to continue being in a connection or in a relationship with someone who keeps hurting you, or rather who keeps hurting, who keeps it? That there's difference. You use other people's triggers, or rather what they trigger in you, to work on yourself. But at the same time, you don't want to really be in a relationship that only triggers you. And yet, that's exactly what happened with me and my partner. We stayed with each other, and we triggered each other. We still do, nowhere near as much as we did. And I mean nowhere near. But we did, like, that was the hell. I mean, the left, right, and center. That's what I mean. Daily we were in heaven and then in hell. A few times a day sometimes, and sometimes a few times a week only, or not every day kind of thing, right? Every other, whatever. But it was intense. The journey, the kind of roller coaster journey, and because we triggered each other so much, and but that's my point. I stayed, or he stayed, I don't know. I certainly didn't. We had no kids, we had nothing, we didn't have to stay with each other. So it was a choice. And it's because, am I repeating now myself actually? So it's the heaven because you have the heaven, therefore you stay through hell, because you always get to heaven. I'm gonna pause it. So I was just thinking, I don't know if I can actually go back to where I left off and paused in order to kind of get back to that point. No, but what I was thinking is, so if there is no heaven in our connections, of the kind I'm talking about, and I don't know how to describe, maybe I should have kind of qualified the heaven, just a blissful state of love, really, unconditional love. That's the thing, it's unconditional love and acceptance. And I don't know why my partner and I had that, or have that. And that's underneath all the crap that we, as both of us as humans, and very flawed humans, we will very much condition each other, or put in the past, would have conditioned, and probably still do, and I'm sure we do, but like I say, nowhere near as much. So the heaven that I'm referring to is that kind of sense of unconditional acceptance and love. No matter what, you still love that person, and you will. And also for me maybe, but I think for him as well, is the sense of kindness, which is the same thing, but it's that kind of, you just know that person won't go out their way to hurt you or harm you or wish you unwell, and that is another kind of quality of this heaven that I'm referring to. And so you don't have that. One doesn't get that with friends, I don't think. I certainly never did. And or connections, that kind of sense of, in theory, yes, like unconditional acceptance, meaning no one is gonna force me to be anyone I'm not, but they will not be able to accept me for everything I am and be friends with me. I don't think so. I really don't think so. That's, I don't know if, because this is the third take for this video, I don't know if I started off with this, but there is, although on one hand I don't believe there is one person for us, my life has so far shown me that that's the case, because no one else, with no one else I have that space and freedom to be who I am, and be part of the relationship. I couldn't be that with any of other of my friends, and I don't have many, and I don't know if I would even call them friends in a sort of traditional sense. But I certainly had friends, and I can think of one in particular a few years ago that was a 1 year long, and I suppose that was closest to my relationship with my partner, of that unconditional, but it all ended and not so well. So that would have been an example of an instance when things go wrong, like a bit of a hell. And I sort of, well, I'd like to, well, I think I held the space for that unconditional love because I do love her, and genuinely care for her. Um, and so I feel I held the space, even though I was also the initiator, like, well, we can't go this way at the time, for the time being, but I'm here. And then I jumped back into the relationship just to, well, got in touch to say that I'm still here and that I'm thinking of her and all that, with a desire to get back together at some point. Because it was probably the closest to heavenly friendship I had. By heavenly, I mean, it's such a Christian word, which is so not me, but it's the most blissed out, the most perfect, kind of friendship I ever had. So yeah, but no, I had no response. So probably not. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't know what the reasons are. Maybe I'll never find out. Maybe I will. But yeah. So this was a bit of a rambling one, but I'm gonna end it here. And light and shadow. I shall see you tomorrow.